fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top now!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it.
I don't know what happened on there. I just plucked her in first, gave some gen. Oh, fuck yeah. Sorry.
You are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
We go green for 40 minutes of racing around Monza.
Really, look at defense by Ethan Grigol, just getting so punchy.
And a brilliant getaway already from Josh Rogers.
Two pro drivers going at it here between Dylan O'Keefe and Nick Foster.
Stanaway's demoted to third. Webster wins week 9 here at Sebring through the final corner. That's a huge slide for Cooper Murray. He's just trying to barge their way through, and that's whoa, that's a merry-go-round for Nick Burkett. Campbell, Paolo Gaon, and Ferraris behind. Glenn Wood actually was flipped into the barriers. One of the most exciting pirouettes I've seen in quite some time. That's Van Gisbergen, and his day is done. Tell you what, if Calvin wins this race, I wouldn't be surprised. He's all four wheels up the racetrack. Wow, but he just saves it on the apex.
Contact almost made, side by side through the elevation change, and Scotty McLaughlin had the move done, but he got over the crest, and
What a send!
Dylan O'Keefe sends it up to the inside, can't do anything with it.
Shane Van Gisbergen already on the attack.
It begins and sending has begun.
And it's going to be a drag race to the line. Tuesday night is rapidly becoming a night to lick the stamp. Send it.
Oh, I forgot I was helping commentate here. I was just sitting back in my jocks and
It's that time when the biggest and best names of the real life and virtual motorsport worlds come together. Spectators from right around the globe religiously tune in, and commentators even give updates with hot girls so they don't miss any of the action. That's right, everyone. It's that night when we all channel our inner Daniel Ricciardo, lick the stamp, and just send it. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lockie Mance, and welcome to Season 2, Week 2 of the Just Send It series. This week, we head to a circuit made famous with corner names such as Maggots, Beckett's, and Stowe, and we head there with one of the iconic cars of GT racing, the Audi R8 LMS. Joining me in commentary tonight, he's had a bit of a break from the microphone because he's been busy racing, but it's great to welcome back Bo Albert. Good evening, Bo. How are you going?
Oh, cannot complain at all when we come to Just Send It. It's always entertaining. It's always a little bit of madness. And with the two-race format this season, boy, oh boy, is it even more intense than ever. So Silverstone, Audi R8, like you alluded to, and a 60-car grid by the end of the night. We're in for a cracker.
Also joining us in commentary this evening, making a very special guest appearance. In real life, he's a member of the championship-winning TCR Australia HMO customer racing team, but making an appearance behind the microphone tonight. Good evening, Sam Stratton.
Good afternoon, Lockie. Good afternoon, Bo. How are we both?
Very well, thank you. Now, I know that obviously this is your first night as a commentator, but how closely have you been following the Just Send It series?
Pretty closely, actually. So a little while ago, we set up the workshop simulator for Nathan Morecambe to get on to Just Send It, and he's been doing a little bit from time to time. In terms of watching this, I'm well aware of all the mess and all the chaos that generally takes place. So I'm looking forward to tonight.
Now, right off the top, I have to say that you are good mates with Reece Lowe, who's one of the members of the organising committee for Just Send It. And there's been a fairly epic Instagram battle happening between the company that he's involved with, which is the Hype Project, and HMO Customer Racing, to see who could reach 1,000 followers on Instagram fastest. What ended up happening in that competition?
Well, it was a pretty chaotic last 3 days. Essentially, what happened is HMO Custom Racing did end up getting the trophy. We finished on 1,000 as they were on 997. We both vowed to never ever do it again. It's a stupid idea. And if one ever thinks about it and suggests it, the other one has a full invitation to kick the other one in the genitals.
Let's on that note, thank you for that one, Sam. We'll get Bo's thoughts though, because if we have a look at our grid positions for this week, probably should mention off the top for those of you who missed last week's first round of season 2 for Just Send It, different race formats for this season. It's now a twin race format with a reverse grid for race number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just going to amp up everything a little bit more. And just to add a bit more spice once more, we also don't know how many cars are actually going to get reversed in that second race. It is all down to the fate of the wonderful yet glorious spinny wheel. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. It could be, I don't know, maybe 8 cars that are reversed. It could be the top 60. We don't know. And that's one of the beautiful parts of Just Send It. Every little bit is just as much of a mystery. But the cars are embarking on their formation lap now. So it could be a good time to go through the grid.
So Madison Down, one of the competitors in the Supercars iRacing series, he's on pole position. Good to see Luca Giacomin back on the grid as well. He'll start on the front row. Jared Filsell, ever consistent front runner, out of 3rd position. Dominic Ferraris, who always goes well in GT machinery, out of 4th. Jackson Suzlin Harlow in position 5. The ever consistent Andrew Collins in 6th spot. And then it's Gary Hamilton and Justin Ruggier rounding out your top 8 positions.
Kicking things off from the row number 5, Jake Maloney in 9th, and he has the master of fuel saving, probably actually gaining fuel rather than actually using fuel in the top 10. It is Ross Rizzo. Kicking things off from position number 11 is Blake Purdy with Dean O'Brien and Mr. 6th place, Brenton Hobson, actually starting from 13th, so he has a little bit of work to do to get up to that glorious 6th place. Glenn Postwaite's teammate Mitch McLeod and Ryan Jerrick, your top 16.
Good to see some real-life names on the grid. We roll down through the rest of the field. John Emerson in 17th position, back to Jack Hotter. Cody Bircher, the Australian Formula Ford Championship competitor, out of 19th. And then it's Brad Newman. Michael Cutajar in 21st position. Steve Owen, good to see him back this week, out of 22nd position. Michael Hammond and Sam Devantier rounding out your top 24 positions.
Dylan Shepherd will start things off from 25th, with Paul Mansell with close company behind. Ben Dutton and Nick Carroll will share the 14th row of the grid, with Guy Leach and Aaron Borg making their way into the top 30 spots, so great for those guys. Techstar McCoy will kick things off from 31st, with Jonathan Bykoff in that glorious Monster Energy livery, 32nd.
Aaron Borg, of course, the 2019 Toyota 86 Racing champion. We go back down through the field. Alex Court in 33rd. Porsche Carrera Cup racer for GWR Australia Duvarshan Padiachi will start out of 34th. And then it's Emerson Harvey back to Zach Bates, another Formula Ford racer. Glenn Wood in 37th position. Michael Rosenblatt 38th. Paul Rogers in 39th. And yet another Australian Formula Ford Championship competitor, Lachlan Manif, rounds out the top 40.
41st belongs to the host of all this series, who runs all the actual sessions themselves, Simon Black, so a big thank you to him for all he does for the series. Ruben Goodall from 42nd, with Justin Ford, Nick Coulson, and Brett Cananzi with a very strong contender for livery of the night in 45th. Alexander Newton will kick things off from 46th, with Nick De Silva and Jay Cool, your top 48 cars.
It's a big grid. We've got 55 cars in the field, so Christian Lindbaum 49th ahead of Reece Lowe. Back to Luke Clever, and then Lee Burley, Andre Burrell in 53rd position, Vince Gucciardo out of position 54, and Trent Harrison, one of the series organisers for Just Send It, rounding out the 55 car field. It's an iconic circuit, this one, the Silverstone track. Names such as Maggots and Beckett's, those high-speed direction changes are really going to suit the high downforce, high corner speed characteristics of these Audi R8s. But as the field assembles in side-by-side grid formation, it's time to Just Send It at Silverstone with the Audis underway. Good start from our pole sitter Madison Down. And a pile up already.
Absolutely massive crash on the run into Cops, multiple cars involved. The Just Send It way is kicked off right from the very beginning. Someone drifting through turn 1 as well. This is exactly what you would expect, but right up to your race leaders, Jackson, Susan, Harlem, off the road, bouncing and leaping rallycross style, drifting in the back of the middle of the pack. Roll over goes one of the cars from Synergy Sim Racing. This is Just Send It, and you can describe this very much by the livery that some of the drivers have on their cars.
And it's the actions continuing as they head onto the hangar straight out of Chapel, and a move for the lane here. Down the inside, Jared Filsell sends it on Madison down. An early challenge for the lead, and he's made the move stick as well. Jared Filsell getting very aggressive very early. Madison down wants to try and recapture the position, and he forces his way around the outside of Filsell. The two leaders will go side by side through the sweeping right-hander, and it's Filsell who just holds onto the position, but Madison down, looking to try and take advantage with the slipstream.
Absolutely. Looks down to the inside a little bit squirrely on the brakes. Uses all the curb contact. Door banging between former teammates. No love lost. ERT one-ups the TTR driver for now, but there's another ERT car just lurking in the background as well. So quite the team battle out front. And some of the veterans of sim racing with a little bit of a look to the inside there. But nothing forthcoming until Filsell makes a mockery, and Jonathan Bykoff is off the road as well. More contact, but the race turns on its head again. Madison down, started from pole position, didn't hold the lead the entire lap, but he's going to lead lap 1 anyway.
What an unbelievable start. So we saw 2 or 3 changes for the lead in the first lap alone, and it's not going to be over yet because we've got another challenge on. That's Giacomin down the inside of Madison down to move through into the top spot. Andrew Collins in 3rd position. We'll talk a bit more about the livery on his car and the significance of that as we get a bit further into this race and let some of the cars settle into their respective positions. But it is a tight 4-way battle for the race lead at the moment between 4 quality drivers. Thankfully, they've all managed to escape the carnage that we saw on lap 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes in Just Send It, it's what you've got to do. And that's why Brett Cananzi is in with a great chance of making up some positions like he did at Daytona. It's all about staying out of trouble in these races. And Jared Filsell does not stay out of trouble. Goodbye to the VA Scops Championship leader. So he is going to have a lot more work to do. And another car off the road in the form of, I think, that might have been Andrew Collins as well. So 4th and 3rd in that race. Well, they're not there anymore, but it is still going to be Luca Giacomin lining up in your race lead with Madison down close behind. Replay up on screen and just a small little touch. And Andrew Collins does rallycross, and Jared Filsell finds himself facing the wall as we look towards Jake Maloney, who's hunting down Ross Rizzo. And how many times have we seen this over the last few months?
We haven't really had a chance to get much of a word in edgeways from our special guest commentator Sam Stratton with all of the action that's unfolded in this first couple of laps. But what do you make of what you're seeing on the track, Sam?
Lachlan, this is exactly what I came here for. It's good to see the guys are delivering. We actually made comment before we went live how we thought, you know, things had settled down and these guys had started to just get on and race with it. But no, it's good to see that they remember what they're here for.
Just saying there, Lachlan Maneef off the road, and that's a shame because he had worked his way up to be just outside the top 20. He'd made up something like 21 positions in the first couple of laps, but he's now fallen back down the order with that off-track excursion, and he's going to have to do all of that work all over again. Rear wing damage to the Aaron Borg car. He's being pursued at the moment by Cody Bircher and also Emerson Harvey. Having that rear wing damage is going to be costly for Aaron Borg through the sections of this circuit, and there are a lot of them where the downforce and corner speed is so critical.
No, absolutely. This is a circuit where carrying momentum is so crucial, and mid-corner speed is what is going to win you lap time, and sometimes positions in the form of Jake Maloney slides up the inside and takes a podium position away from Ross Rizzo. But look at the little bit of a train that is forming behind in the form of Blake Purdy, Dean O'Brien, and Justin Rougier in there as well. The number 2 car, do not count him out, especially now that he has another accolade to his very successful CV in racing. Of course, at Newcastle, he took home the Australian Racing Cars Championship, and an absolute kudos from everyone here at SimSpeed. That is a brilliant performance from him, but nonetheless, he has a lot of work to do because some very fast drivers up in front.
Well, the likes of Blake Purdy and Dean O'Brien, they were race winners, both of them in Season 1 of Just Send It, so we both know that they're quality competitors. So too was this man, Cody Bircher, who is looking to try and make the move through on Aaron Borg, Emerson Harvey involved in that one as well. And the number 36 car there of Cody Bircher. He's actually running the Jamac Pen livery that we see on the actual Melbourne Performance Centre Audi iRacing that run in events like the Australian GT Championship and at the Bathurst 12 Hour. On board with Andrew Collins. Now, while we are riding on board with Andrew Collins, you'll notice that he's running, well, there's a good view of it, a Spider-Man livery on his 000 car, which has got the face of TCR and Dunlop Super 2 racer Dylan O'Keefe. And the reason for that is because at one of the TCR rounds earlier this year, commentator Greg Rust compared Dylan O'Keefe to Peter Parker from Spider-Man. So Andrew Collins has taken that quite literally and stuck Dylan O'Keefe's face on a Spider-Man livery for this week.
Yeah, well, I was going to try and think of a pun to go along with that, but you know what? I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to move on because we do have a couple of battles.
You'll get drawn into a web of disaster if you try and come up with corny puns.
I give up. I'm not commentating anymore, Lockie. I give up. That one, I'll give you that one. Okay, I'll give you that one. But nonetheless, let's go back to the racing. And Aaron Borg has a lot of company. Jared Philcell, ever fast, making up positions from that earlier spin that he had at Stowe and trying to get a bit racy. But Aaron Borg isn't going to make life too easy, but the damage is going to be hampering him in straight line speed in particular. So what can he do through this ultra fast section that we don't see anymore? One of the greatest sections you'll ever find on a racetrack. And Jared Philcell putting on a clinic on how to pass. And you can just see to the right of your screen there that if you are willing to like and share the broadcast and tell us in 25 words or less why you deserve to win a $250 workshop voucher from Melbourne Performance Centre. Lockie, that is a fantastic prize that's on offer.
Yeah, we've got some really good prizes up for grabs in Just Centre this season, and we'll talk a bit more about those during the halftime break in between races as well. But some great sponsors have come on board. Really well done to the team, Trent Harrison and Reece Lowe and those guys who've done a good job of getting some partners on board. But if you go back onto the Just Send It Facebook page and look at a bit earlier on today, you'll see a walk through the Melbourne Performance Centre garage where Trent Harrison had a chat to Lee Partridge and the team at Melbourne Performance Centre, and they talk you through some of the things that you can get for your $250 voucher if you are lucky enough to win it.
No, absolutely. That I know is a prize a lot of people would be looking forward to and wanting to get. So make sure you are getting engaged in the comment section, liking it and sharing the broadcast as well. Every little bit helps, and it can also help your chances on an amazing experience at Melbourne Performance Centre. But for Luca Jackaman, he's doing a great job out front. He's lapping half a second quicker than Madison Down. So Luca in a bit of a class of his own at the moment, with Jake Maloney trying to close back up to his former rival. Of course, those two used to compete for both TTL and TTR rival teams. So we'll see what he can do, closing by 0.2 of a second. But Dean O'Brien doesn't need to close by 0.2 of a second because he is right underneath the rear wing of Ross Rizzo into this so slow section. You just constantly want to feed the car with a little bit more throttle, but the front tires just don't let you until you truly can see the exit of the corner and then power it out. And then you have to face the ever-fast Cops corner. And in these GT3 cars, they're not easy at all through that section. But at the moment, on board with Blake Purdy, cannot get a pass on Ross Rizzo, has to wait yet another lap, as we are already nearing the halfway stage in this race.
Hard to believe, isn't it? And it shows just how much action there's been in the first half of this race. He gets a better run this time, Blake Purdy. He'll draw up alongside Ross Rizzo and he'll swing past as well. So that is to change in fourth position. Blake Purdy goes on through, and Rizzo will now find himself coming under pressure from Dean O'Brien and Justin Ruggier, who's using all of the curb and a fair bit of the grass as well as they negotiate their way back onto the hanger straight.
Yep, absolutely a fantastic slipstream opportunity, and Ruggier with a massive dive up the inside, a little bit of a door bang, but nonetheless, position gain P6 for the Australian racing car champion. So he is moving forward, and I'm not sure Dean O'Brien will be too happy about that pass, but he's got to try and retaliate because, of course, there is still plenty of laps on the clock left to be run. So we'll see what he can do. But now for Ruggier, next target is Rizzo. So Ross, who was having a strong run, third in the early laps after the opening little bit of chaos, is starting to fall back a little bit, and fuel saving won't save him in this one. So got to come up with another tactic to bounce back from this little bit of a slump he's having.
We know that Justin Marucci is good at overtaking. We saw that he actually won the award for Send of the Evening last week. So Justin Marucci is good when it comes to putting moves on other cars, and he might just get another one done here as well. In fact, they'll swap positions a couple of times. Dean O'Brien wants to get in on the action as well, trying to hang tough around the outside and do the switchback on Justin Marucci. So he wants that spot back, Dean O'Brien. He'll get into the slipstream as they come back onto the main straight to complete another lap. What's the high-speed corners here at Silverstone? It can be quite a challenge to overtake, though.
No, absolutely. Because the corners are so high speed, they don't really have that long braking zone that you need to truly stamp your authority on the driver you're trying to pass. So you've really got to commit and really go for a send if you're going to make anything happen. Stowe is a fantastic opportunity. So is the braking zone into Abbey. But other than those two spots, you've really got to be a little bit creative and get your artistic flair out and see what you can do on the drivers around you. You can see other drivers on track like Mitch McLeod at the moment under a lot of pressure from Cody Bircher behind, who's in the slipstream. You can get a real grasp of just how powerful it is. Cody just millimeter by millimeter closing in, but can't do anything on the talking driver who misses the apex ever so slightly, but should be safe for the coming corner unless he breaks a little bit too early for Cody Bircher's liking, which he does, but Cody can't do anything with it.
Mitchell McLeod, one of the veterans of sim racing in the Australian online racing community, really loves to have fun with his sim racing as well, and he's participated in a lot of these just-centered events. You always know that he's going to be in the thick of the action, regardless of what car we're racing or what week it is. He's up behind Sam Zavant here at the moment, battling for what will be the final position inside the top 10.
Yep, and Sam is doing a really nice job at the moment, and he is actually just slowly trying to reach Brenton. Oh, bit of contact there in the background. That was Mitch McLeod under a whole heap of fire from Cody Bircher, who's now starting to send little telegrams into the back bumper of the Torque Inc. Audi R8, but he has to be careful because Phil Cell, who's just slaughtering his way through this field, is closing up ever so slightly and doesn't get the best run out of that corner and doesn't get the momentum he needs. So unless he's getting very, very brave, which he might want to do because it is Jared Philcell after all, can't do anything into Cop's corner. But this battle pack is closing up and spicing up now as there is a massive mistake from Cody Bircher, which could be an invitation, but actually with that much wider line, despite doing a little bit of Jim's lawn mowing, does actually manage to keep the position ahead of Jared Philcell. But we'll see how this goes into Stowe corner coming up, and we're just getting a replay on screen at the moment. Ross Rizzo, who went for a big send there, and on the 488 car of Blake Purdy, who was actually slowing down, potentially serving a slowdown, and Brenton Hobson. That is not the way to get 6th place, my friend. And a couple of doughies, and I might just give that a 6 out of 10 just to be favourable to Brenton there.
Looks like he just got on the power a little bit too hard too early, didn't it? But what we saw there a bit earlier on with Cody Bircher is that if you run wide through turn 1, because there's AstroTurf out there, it's still salvageable. There's still a bit of drip out there. You don't necessarily lose too much momentum. But Jared Philcell, he's sitting in 11th. We know that he's got good pace because he qualified a lot higher up the order than that, but it just shows the quality of the field that we've got in these events, the fact that he's struggling to fight his way back to the front.
No, absolutely, but we'll see what he can do. He's looking very racy, and his pace is really, really strong. I'm just going to quickly get a little bit of a glance and see what his quickest lap time is. 44.5, which is comparable to the pace that Luca Giacomin is running out front at the moment. So he's got front-running pace, just obviously with a car in front. That is not going to be helping your lap time in any way, shape, or form. And they're braking just a little bit earlier into corners, not carrying the same corner speed or getting the runs out of corners either. So we know we can do 44.5s. At the moment, stuck doing 45.3, so not ideal for him as we look backwards from Cody Bircher's car there as he makes his way through what is becoming his traditional racing line, I think is safe to say.
A few other cars having moments there. We saw a couple of cars in the background there spinning off the circuit, so Cody Bircher has moved up into the top 10 as a result of that. Just on the Luca Giacomin situation, he is doing what we would describe in real-life motorsport as managing the gap to the cars behind. He's doing lap times that are fast enough to make sure that he's not being threatened by the likes of Madison Down and Jake Maloney, but at the same time, he's driving within himself. He's not pushing hard enough that he's risking mistakes and potentially losing positions.
No, absolutely, and that's what you need to do sometimes. This battle pack gets a little bit more heated. Sam Devontier does run wide through Stowe and gives a whole heap of positions to this battle pack. And Mitch McLeod taking a slightly alternate line there through, I believe that is Club Corner. I don't know my Silverstone all too well, but neither way, Jared Filso there getting his headlights out, and Cody Bircher getting his sends out, but nothing he can do as Mitch McLeod is late on the brakes. Filso tries to buy in on the action, but can't do it around the outside of Abbey. Gets a great run though, underneath bridge, and you can lunge up the inside here, but Cody Bircher decides to do it instead of Filso up the inside of Mitch McLeod. Door mirror to door mirror, right on the brakes of the limit of adhesion, and Cody Bircher gets the position done, not without a bit of paint swapping. No, he looks to the inside, but he's mainly just trying to defend from Jared Filsell, who's being hung out to dry on the outside. Can't get on the power, but Mitch McLeod bursts the car into wheel spin, which gives Jared a great run, heading towards the terrifying Cops Corner. The apex speed here is absolutely ludicrous in a GT3 car, so don't go side by side. Mitch McLeod drives it in quite deep, again just gifting the exit to Filsell, but he can't do anything with it, as Cody Bircher does his traditional racing line once more. Filsell so close, yet so far.
And Sam Devanti, you're right with them as well. That was smart driving there from Mitchell McLeod. He slowed it up at the apex through turn number 1, made sure that Filsell had no opportunity to execute the switchback and slip back down the inside. So that was textbook defensive driving from Mitchell McLeod after losing the position a couple of corners earlier to Cody Bircher.
No, absolutely. And now a much less smart driving by Mitch McLeod, because there was nothing he could do against Jared Filsell right up the inside, and it nailed the braking absolutely perfectly. So position gain for Filsell. He now finds himself moving up the order to 9th place. So strong progress. Next up, Cody Bircher.
Let's not forget, though, that race 2 will feature that reverse grid format where we don't know the number of positions that are going to be reversed, but I can tell you that undoubtedly it will be well and truly more than 10. So all of this work that Filsell's having to do in overtaking cars, he'll have to do it all over again when we get into race 2.
No, absolutely. And if you are wondering about the reverse grid situation, it's going to be any position, or any odd position, I should say, from position, 15 positions all the way to 55 cars. So a massive amount of cars, and Ruben Goodall, unfortunately, he's not doing good at all.
So he's done that all on his own. Now, that was obviously a bit further back in the pack. He's fallen down to 43rd position as a result of that spin. Let's have a look at some of the battles that are happening a bit further back in the pack. Steve Owen, the former Supercars driver, former Supercars race winner, in fact, battling it out with Brad Newman, who was one of the very consistent performers in Season 1 of Just Send It.
Justin Rougier loops it off at turn number 1, and all the good progress he was making now down the toilet. Just Send It replay turns it in, and I believe what you're going to see here is the rear left wheel get into the grass and almost tandem drifting, but Justin Rougier does a whole lot less drifting and a whole heap more spinning, unfortunately.
It's an uncharacteristic mistake from Justin Rougier, who's normally faultless when it comes to these online sim racing competitions, so that's something that's very unusual, and he was running in a pretty good position at the time, so he will be kicking himself for that mistake.
No, absolutely, and especially when there is only a minute 16 to go. The race is flying by. We're expecting one more lap after this one as Luca Giacomin flashes his headlights, but only a lap too early, Luca. Just keep it on the track for now, but nonetheless, still a battle going on for 4th and 5th between Rizzo and Blake Purdy. And these two are very, very evenly matched. So I'm wondering how this is going to pan out with 1 lap to go. Because like you alluded to before, there is a reverse grid after this. And they are both well within the window to have their positions reversed. So if Blake doesn't actually get past Rizzo, he doesn't even need to in the next race.
It's a good point, but this is Just Send It after all. It's about making the overtaking manoeuvres work while you have the opportunity to do so. So I can guarantee that if Blake Purdy senses a chance to get past Ross Rizzo, he will go for it. Aaron Borg's done a good job in this race, just having a look, in fact, to see drivers who've made up a lot of positions. Aaron Borg has come up 16 spots, so that's been good progress for him. The driver who's actually made up the most positions of anyone in the field is Luke Claver, who was in 23rd position in the race, but he has come up 28 spots since the start.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, isn't it? That is a huge amount, as Steve Owen gets a huge amount of oversteer, unfortunately, and spins the car. Unfortunately, unlike he did at Sebring, he doesn't go for multiple pirouettes. But yeah, for Luke Claver, that is absolutely fantastic. 28 positions And he's only 2 spots behind Nick De Silva, who was up 26 spots. So around that little 20th range of on positions on track at the moment is some real shakers and movers at the moment, which is great to see.
So Cody Bircher continuing his attacking drive forward. He's come up behind John Emerson in what will be the contest for positions 7 and 8. Since he's got clear track, Cody Bircher, he's had really, really good pace. In fact, his last lap was 1 minute 44.4, which was actually a 10th quicker than Luca Giacomin, the race leader. So Cody Bircher showing a good turn of speed. But Luca Giacomin, what an exemplary performance it's been. Qualified on the front row, got to the lead within the first couple of laps, has not been seriously challenged by anybody else for most of the race, and he is going to win race 1 for week 2 of Just Send It here at Silverstone.
Absolutely great drive there from Luca. Madison Down and Jake Maloney, 2 very experienced drivers on the iRacing platform, round out the podium with Rizzo and Blake Purdy, your top 5 as the rest of the field comes streaming across the finish line. Now, Justin Rougier still has a point to prove on Techstar McCoy. He needs the good exit. He gets the good exit, but is he going to have enough time to fence by Tex? But the finish line comes up close, and I think Rougier was a great effort, but too little too late, and he still goes for a bit of a swipe at the end there. Unloads Techstar McCoy, and around he will go, and into the fence. That is how you finish Just Send It.
Well, Techstar McCoy's coming off the back of competing in the Hyundai Excel Endurance race at Winton last weekend. So if there's a category that's going to teach you how to defend positions, then it's the Excels. And Techstar McCoy had to use all of his defensive resolve to keep Rougier at bay until they crossed the finish line.
No, absolutely. And we still are having a bit of a look now at Jackson Susan Harley, who goes for a big send up the inside into the grass, 2 wheels, and gets the position stick as well. So Jackson, who was very much out of position, ultra quick driver in the Oz NZ community, unfortunately got involved in that incident earlier on, but he will recover to what I believe was 33rd spot there.
Now, interesting to see what the reverse grid draw gives us, actually, because some of those drivers who finished a bit further down might be in a good position to benefit from that reverse grid draw. And like we saw last week with Mia Ott, if you've got clear track at the start of the race, it can really, really work to your advantage if you can get a good lead early before the fast cars start to charge their way through the field. So let's now do our random reverse grid draw. It's Wheel of Fortune time here at Just Send It as we spin the wheel, and it is number 27.
All right.
So,
oh, the pole sitter.
Race Low is going to stay on pole.
Oh no, we are not going to hear the end of this.
So isn't that the second week in a row? Or he was on the front row, wasn't he? It was Mia Ott who was on pole when he was, and Race Low was second. So it's the second week in a row that Race Low has come up with a front row starting position for the reverse grid race.
Are we sure that Reese hasn't tampered with this wheel at all?
It must be said after the day he's had. It's good that Reese gets himself a bit of a win too. He's had a rough one today, so full credit to him. I hope he can do something with it.
So confirmation of your race 1 results. Luca Giacomin taking the win ahead of Madison Down. Jake Maloney in third. Back to Ross Rizzo, Blake Purdy, Dean O'Brien, John Emerson and Cody Bircher finishing up in 8th position. Don't forget, too, that if you like and share the broadcast and tell us in 25 words or less why you deserve to win a $250 workshop voucher thanks to Melbourne Performance Centre, you might win a $250 workshop voucher thanks to Melbourne Performance Centre.
Yep, very cool prize indeed. And if I wasn't commentating, I'd definitely be entering in that myself. That is a great prize and an experience that I think a lot of people normally would not get. So very, very cool to see that that's being offered for free to be won here in Just Send It.
Got some other cool prizes as well, which we'll talk about now that we're into the halftime break. So I'm ashamed to announce, so we've got the Just Paint It award for the best livery, and the way that will work is after each week's Just Send It races, competitors will be invited to post up their livery designs on the Just Send It Facebook page, and people can then like the photo of the livery which they like the best. The one that comes up with the most likes each week will be the winner of that week. And the 12 winners from the 12 weeks of Just Send It will all go into the grand final, and we'll then have a super liking competition to decide who will be the overall winner. And they will pick up some simulator racing equipment thanks to SimWorks, who are the sponsor for the Just Painted Award. And I'm ashamed to announce that the winner last week for week 1 was Nick Carroll's livery, which very, very cheekily stitched up a certain Just Send It commentator.
G'day. Is Sam on? I really just want to rub that into Sam.
He sure is.
Have you seen what the front row is, mate?
Yeah, mate, you know what? After the day you guys have had, I think it's only fitting that you celebrate something today. So good luck to both of you, I say.
Beautiful, thank you. Just say the name a lot for us, would you? All right, see you guys.
So last week, we saw plenty of action and plenty of spectacular sends. Let's check out some of the highlights from week 1, season 2 of Just Send It.
How's that from Josh Rogers? Just chops across Josh Anderson.
Both of our leaders have come together. There's more dramas as well.
Cooper Webster's going to take them both here. No, not quite. Simon Feigl now leads this race. Gary Hamilton's also had a spin as well as there's contact. How's the roll over there? Wow.
He got turfed. That was Brady McHugh. Well, there's your nomination for biggest failed send of the night.
Oh no!
We've had contact involving our race leaders. That's Cooper Webster. Congratulations to Wayne Burke. He is your race 1 winner.
And at the line, Anderson and Feigl crossed within 6 thousandths of a second of each other.
Underway we go, and we've already got contact in turn number 1.
Ross Rizzo, Jack Hodder side by side across the finish line. But Rizzo through. Oh no! Contact between teammates is never a good thing. Another little bit of a timing glitch here with the guys deciding to do donuts and rip up the front straight. Mia Rott's going to come across the line.
A good close finish there between Justin Rugia, Nick Carroll and Trent Harrison. Rugia with a really good slipstream here from Nick Carroll. He'll pull to the outside. We'll have the high line. Can he switch back to the inside, or can he go all the way around the outside?
Good move.
And Rugia breaks later. He'll get the job done on the outside of turn 1. Nice job, Justin Rugia.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back, everybody. You are watching Week 2, Season 2 of Just Send It. Lockie Mansell in the commentary box, along with Bo Albert and Sam Stratton, talking you through all of the action. We've completed Race 1, Race number 2, not too far away. But while we're in this halftime break, let's talk about some of the cool prizes that are on offer for Season 2 of Just Send It. We've talked about the prize, the $250 Melbourne Performance Centre voucher that's on the line this weekend. We've talked about the SimWorks Just Painted competition as well, and some other prizes that will be coming up in the future. We've got Erebus Motorsport on board. They're going to be offering up a 2-hour simulator session with Anton De Pasquale and also a hot lap in one of the Erebus Motorsport Commodore Virgin Australia Supercars Championship cars. Not sure about you, Bo, but I'm not sure if I'm brave enough to go for a hot lap with either David Reynolds or Anton De Pasquale.
No, definitely not. You've only got to look at David Reynolds' interviews at the best of times to know that he's going to be quite aggressive and intense behind the wheel, and he definitely throws the car around, and it'd be terrifying to be in the seat with him. And on the other side of the coin, I've met Anton, a former teammate of mine at ERT, and he's super intense. He's super committed to absolutely everything he does. He always wants to be quickest, no matter what session it is, practice, qualifying, or a race, or even just a test drive with a passenger in the seat. He will go 100%. So that is a brilliant price to be along with. But I'm with you. I am not getting in that seat.
I still have to say, though, that the 2-hour sim coaching session with Anton, that's very cool. And certainly if you're keen on improving your sim racing technique, Anton's probably not a bad person to have alongside you. One of the other things that we like people, particularly our viewers who are tuning in on the Facebook live stream, to get involved in is tag people who are not currently involved in Just Send It, but who you think should be involved in Just Send It. And last week we put the call out for everybody to tag Paul Morris because we reckon that he and Russell Ingall should feature Just Send It on the Enforcer and the Dude TV show. This week, though, we're asking everybody to tag Carlos Sainz, the Formula One driver, because he put in some great sends at the final round of the Formula One World Championship over at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix on the weekend, and he's someone who we would very much like involved in the Just Send It competition.
Well, that would work perfectly because Carlos Sainz does in fact have an iRacing account, so everything is just about set for him to get in there. I know Alex Albon has an account as well, but for Carlos Sainz to get in there, that would be great after his amazing pass on the final lap to get P10 and then score P6 in the championship as well. So he's definitely got that sender attitude, especially on the radio after he made that pass. He went straight to the "just send it" or "did I just send it" comments. So he knows how to send it, but can he do it on the virtual world? I would love to see him prove it.
One of the other things, last week we saw that Maya Ott got the win in race 2, and she became the first female driver to get a race win in Just Send It, which was pretty cool. But I would like to say, I'd like to see some more of our pro female drivers involved. So I know that there's girls out there who are making a name for themselves in Australian motorsport, girls like Emily Duggan, who's been one of the competitors in the Toyota 86 Racing Series and the Kumo Super 3 Series for the last couple of seasons. I know that she's looking to get involved in some sim racing, so let's get some more girls involved as well, I say.
No, that would be fantastic. Like, there's a lot that are up and coming in the category as well. Like, you look at the likes of Charlotte Pointing as well in the Aussie racing cars and the Super Utes as well. She's done a couple of rounds there, including Queensland. There's a lot of drivers that I would like to see get in there, especially on the female side as well. And even if it's not necessarily on the Australian side, there's some big talent overseas as well. And we've had a couple of the Europeans jump in for Just Send It. So even like the Formula W Series drivers as well, that would be a brilliant addition, like Jamie Chadwick,
who won the W Series last year or this year, of course. So yeah, they're great to see some of those people getting involved. Right, we shouldn't be too much further away from getting started. I know that with the revised race format that we do have now with the reverse grid race, sometimes it can just take our ever hard-working volunteer officials a bit of time to configure all of the software to make sure that we get the grid positions set as they should be. But reverse grid race, last week we saw that if you started up the front, you had an advantage, and that was why me Ott ended up taking the win ultimately. But what we also saw was that it wasn't impossible to charge your way through the field. So Wayne Burke, who was the race 1 winner last week, position number 23 was the grid draw. So he had to start out of 23rd position on the grid for race 2, but he was still able to work his way through to 3rd place. So even despite the fact that he had to start down the order in race 2, he still made some good progress up through the field.
He absolutely did, but of course that was Daytona Road Course. There's a long straight there, plenty of slipstream opportunity, so you don't necessarily have to send it or work as hard for your overtakes. You can kind of strategize your overtakes and make them work that way a little bit more. Whereas at Silverstone, if you want to make an overtake, you've got to force the issue. You've got to commit. You've got to be 100% on the brakes. You've got to be 100% on your apex speed, and just every little minute detail has to be right, or you're going to see what happened a lot of times in that race. Spinning off of cops, overshooting at Stowe, or just running way too wide and almost into the fence at Abbey. So for these drivers in race 2 who are coming through the field, there's a lot more strategy and a lot more bravery, I think, required than perhaps there was last week.
You know what there's a lot more of required? Just sending it to get the job done here at Silverstone if you do want to pass cars. I think aggression is probably the word that comes to mind as well. And you do really need to get your elbows out, not be afraid to make a bit of panel contact if you want to make a passing maneuver on your rivals.
No, absolutely. And I think we saw that in a few of those overtakes in that first race, where there was a bit of door banging, a little bit of panel beating as well, and even a couple of bump and runs as well. And these are touring cars, in effect. I know they're GT cars, but they can cop a fair bit of punishment. You can rub panels to the slightest degree. Of course, they are affected by aero ever so slightly, but in a 20-minute sprint race, the aero is only going to do so much for you. So get your elbows out. Don't be afraid to lean on your competitors in the braking zone if it's required to make a pass stick.
Once again, a reminder that if you like and share the broadcast and tell us in 25 words or less why you deserve to win a $250 workshop voucher from Melbourne Performance Centre, that's how you go into the draw to pick up the viewer's prize tonight. And for more details on exactly what you can get for your $250 Melbourne Performance Centre workshop voucher, refer to the Just Send It Facebook page and the live video that was done with Trent Harrison having a chat to the Melbourne Performance Centre team, Lee Partridge and the crew, a bit earlier on today.
Yep, absolutely. So race 2 is just about getting ready and loaded to for us to get the race started at least. So not too much longer to wait, and we will get this one started. So looking forward to this. Of course, it is going to be 27 cars that are reversed on the grid, with some very familiar faces up the front and some very familiar faces absolutely buried in the midfield. Of course, 27 cars, and we're expecting a 60-car grid. So they are well and truly stuck right in the midfield.
Good point that you make there, Bo. So the reason that we do have a 60-car grid for race 2 is because Just Send It's been so popular that we actually get too many entries each week to fit them all in the one race. So the drivers who don't qualify quickly enough to make it into the main race participate in the B main, if I can call it that way, to use the speedway analogy. And the top 5 drivers in the B main race 1 get elevated into the main race, and they will occupy positions 56 through to 60 on the grid. As we do have images on screen now, this is the warm-up session, and we're watching the driver who will start from pole position, the Hype Projects car, or it's actually the car that will start second on the grid for this race. Andre Burrell will be him and his teammate Reece Lowe that will lock out the front row of the grid. There he is, Reece Lowe, making his way out of the pits right now. So it'll be an all-green Hype Projects positions 1 and 2 on the grid.
Yep, absolutely. And I know there's going to be plenty of screenshots taken by Reece and the crew at the Hype Project for that one. So get ready for your social medias to be absolutely exploded. But seriously, look up the Hype Project as he gets absolutely turned. They put out some great content on all of their pages, but unfortunately, that is not the best content for them, as Glenn Wood definitely gives them a pass to remember through Maggots and Beckett's.
There was also another car that just went steering straight ahead without looking like it was even going to attempt to stop or make the corner. We just saw it at the back of the live shot. Then look at that. I don't know who that was, but they had absolutely no chance of slowing down or making that corner. Watch this. The cars... No. Ah, there it is. It was Brett Cananzi. So he just went shooting straight ahead, and quite appropriately for the Just Send It competition. Check out the livery that he's got. It is the Australia Post signage on board the 666 car, and he has absolutely sent it into the fence and has now been sent back to the pits for repairs.
Yeah, I really hope there's a fragile sticker or something in that car, because that is not going to be one that he wants to keep, and that is definitely a return to sender. But quickly looking at Luca Jackerman, who of course is going to be running from 27th place after winning race 1, and you can see he got a little bit of a bump there from Nick De Silva. That is exactly what you can expect when coming through the midfield, so he's going to have to work a lot harder for the race win in this one, and as you can see, the pressure can get to you, and you can end up doing sandcastles very quickly.
So, good opportunity to remind everybody about the Just Paint It competition, and that at the end of this week's proceedings, all of the participants will be invited to post photos of their car liveries up online.
Words there, Lockie.
I don't know what... I honestly don't know what to make of that livery. I was trying to come up with some sort of analogy about flushing it away or something, but I couldn't come up with a clever enough one in a short enough amount of time. Some of the liveries are quite classy, though, it has to be said. And there are some drivers and teams who have put in some genuinely creative effort into coming up with some standout colour schemes, which has been great to see.
No, absolutely. It really makes the grid stand out, and it does give a lot more influence as to what's going on to track. Like, you can really see the abstract nature of Jared Filsell absolutely punting drivers at Maggots and Beckett's, and the TTL Esports car just flying through the grass and having no remorse for the racing line. It's just truly an art form in itself, but we do have some very good liveries. I have to say, though, Brett Cananzi's Eclipse Post livery is definitely my vote for livery of the night, I think.
I have to say as well that it does make it easier for us commentators when you do have the drivers and teams with distinctive liveries. It makes it a lot easier for us to distinguish between cars. Here, once again, is a look at the Spider-Man Dylan O'Keefe livery, which is being run by Andrew Collins this week. Dylan O'Keefe, of course, is one of our regular participants on Just Send It. He's not taking part this week because he's currently on holidays overseas, which is probably the reason that Andrew Collins has gone for that livery, because he knows that Dylan can't be here to punt him off or otherwise exact revenge.
No, absolutely. So you have to be careful when you do go annoying Dylan O'Keefe, and there could be a little bit of revenge in the next few Just Send It races when Dylan does, of course, make his return. So plenty to look out for a couple of drivers out in this race, especially with some of the liveries. They're starting to make more of a target of themselves with the liveries than they are with their own car and passing cars, I think.
I'm liking this livery for Dean O'Brien as well. It makes me feel like I want to be on holiday. That very tropical appearance about it. Looking at that, I feel like I should be on a tropical island somewhere going snorkeling, which sounds like a very good plan for this time of the year.
Do we know who that is, the face on the side of his car? It looks like a bowl cut. Yeah, it's well, it could be Jim Carrey or it could be Jimmy Golding, who obviously sported the bowl cut for a little while after Sandown. There was quite a bit of talk in relation to the Jim Carrey and Jimmy Golding similarities, I guess. So maybe there's a little bit of that involved.
Here's Angelo Missouri. So he must have finished in the top 5 in the B race earlier on, because he wasn't in the main race before, but he's gone for the Red Bull inspired livery. Angelo Missouri, incidentally, is the current Australian Formula Ford champion. Won the championship with some very stout performances in the National Formula Ford Championship this season. Round victories at Winton, Wakefield Park. And we're just hearing as well that he won the B race by 11.5 seconds. So absolutely dominated that race, but he'll have his work cut out coming through from the back of the field in this one.
No, absolutely. It's going to be really, really tricky for him to make some passes, but I know he's clearly got some pace. He's clearly got the ability to lead races and, you know, have clean air all to his favor, but passing cars on a circuit is an entirely different ball game. So we'll see how he goes, but it could be very, very tricky for him.
So the checkered flag is out on the warm-up sessions, form up the grid. One of the things that we saw last week was that both of the races got underway with rolling starts. And yes, we are going to have a rolling start once again for this race, which makes sense, I suppose, given that we are in these Audi R8 LMS GT3 cars, which in real life would always get underway with rolling starts as well. Let's take you through your grid positions for race number 2. It's the reverse grid race for week 2 of Just Send It. It's Reese Lowe on pole alongside his teammate Andre Burrell. It's an all-hype project front row. Jonathan Bykoff out of position number 3. Back then to Michael Hammond. Brad Newman in position number 5. Luke Claver, who was our best postman in race number 1. His prize is that he benefits from the inversion. He'll start out of grid position 6 for this one. Simon Black in 7th position and Nick De Silva in 8th.
It's going to be a real-world drivers' 5th row of the grid with Justin Ruscia and Techstar McCoy. Andrew Collins and Brenton Hobson share the 6th row of the grid with Aaron Borg and Gary Hamilton 13th and 14th respectively. Emerson Harvey and Sam Devontier, your top 16.
Position number 17 will be occupied by Mitchell McLeod. Jared Philsell in 18th position. Getting back into some seriously quality drivers. Cody Bircher in 19th. John Emerson in 20th position. Dean O'Brien 21st. Back to Blake Purdy in 22nd position. Ross Rizzo in grid position 23. And Jake Maloney out of 24th.
Madison Down will kick things off from 25th place on the grid, a long way back for the veteran of Australian sim racing. Luca Jackaman will kick things off from 26th as well, with Nick Coulson, Glenn Postlethwaite, your top 28, with Alexander Newton and Jackson Susan-Harlow, both drivers who can be very, very quick on their day, a little bit further back than they would perhaps like. Lachlan Myneef and Paul Mansell, your top 32 cars.
Brett Cananzi, we saw with that very big crash in the warm-up session. He'll go from 33rd ahead of Dylan Shepherd. Back then to Ryan Jerrick, Jack Hotter, Christian Lindbom in 37th, Steve Owen 38th, Lee Burley and Paul Rogers making up your top 40.
41st belongs to Michael Kutcher with Ruben Goodall in 42nd place. Ben Dutton, Justin P. Ford and Guy Leach, your top 45 cars. Zach Bates, Nick Carroll and Duvashen Padiachi in your top 48th place.
We do have a bigger field for this race. Michael Rosenblatt in 49th. Glenn Wood in position 50. Back to Dominic Ferraris, Trent Harrison, Angelo Mazuris, Jay Hansen, another driver coming up from the B race as well. Another Formula Ford driver too. Glenn Sarah in 55th and Bryce McDonnell in 56th position.
Yep, and the grid rounded out by Paul Nichols. So 57 cars here on this Silverstone circuit, 5.1 kilometers in length, and that is more than enough lap distance to try and get a couple of sends happening and really put some pressure on your opponents. As Reese Lowe there decides to, the best way to do the pace lap is just about to be inside the pace car.
So they'll obviously take the opportunity to warm their tyres and brakes up as much as they can. That's something that you're not going to see in real-life racing, actually overlapping the safety car, but they'll shortly come down into the section of the circuit where they start to organise themselves in double file formation, ready for the rolling start. The Hype Projects team, they're going to get all of the screenshots and all of the publicity opportunities that they possibly can with both of their cars lining up on the front row of the grid. But the question that you have to ask is, when the safety car peels into pit lane and when we get the racing underway, will there be any cooperation between Andre Burrell and Reese Lowe? or will they treat each other just like every other competitor?
Absolutely they will. There is going to be a crash between the two of them.
Bold predictions coming from Bo Albert. There we go. Just having a look at some of the other cool liveries. There's Devash and Padiachi sporting a
Nico Rosberg.
Cool livery. So, yeah, Nico Rosberg, the former Formula One world champion, featuring on the side of his car. Here they come out of the last corner, lining up in side-by-side formation, and it's Race Low who puts pedal to the metal to get race 2, week 2 underway for Just Send It. He will lead his teammate down into turn number 1. We hold our breath, we look nervously back in the pack, and we hope that we don't get the pile-up on the main straight that we had in race number 1, but we already do have a bit of damage with not all of the cars quite making it to the start line, with Jack Hotter sporting some rear-end damage. And already one of the Hype Projects cars off the road, that's Andre Burrell. He'll lose spots as a result of that.
Yep, absolutely. He just cops a little bit of a hit from behind there as well, and on the road as well there. I think that actually might be the driver of... I actually couldn't tell who that was. Sorry about that. Texter McCoy, that was indeed. But look at them all moving left and right down the back straight, trying to find any bit of room and trying to find any position they can. But it is Rieslo who has got a brilliant jump. It is Jonathan Bykoff in at P number 2 with Michael Hammond in position number 3. So great jumps from all of them as Jared Philcell finds himself in a massive battle pack at the moment around the outside and will make plenty of spots there. So great work from Jared there, making some brilliant progress on the circuit lap.
So this is just going to take some time for it to all settle out as we have a look at a replay. And this was Jared Philcell going for a big send. This might be the nomination for send of the night because he gained 4 positions in one corner. A brave, bold, aggressive overtaking maneuver from Jared Philcell. And we've got Sam Devantier off the road as well. New leader, so Jonathan Bykoff has gone through in the Monster Energy car to take the top spot. He's made the move through on Race Low. And is that Dean O'Brien already up there as well on the outside of Brad Newman in the sister car to Dean O'Brien, who's up there on the outside of Race Low as they head across the start-finish line to complete lap 1.
Yep, absolutely. So, oh, one of the Hype Project cars, Andre Burrell, goes for a bit of a spin on the inside of turn 1, rolls back onto the racing line just about. Everyone managed to avoid. There's a crash in the background as well, but almost 3 wide between some of the cars, including Brenton Hobson and Aaron Borg into Magus and Beckett. They all sort themselves out. It was Glenn Postlethwaite that was off the road at turn number 1. But now look at this massive train of cars making their way down the back straight. Justin Rougier is going to be giving a slipstream to Reese Lowe just behind, but it's going to be no use because look at them all lining up to make a pass, looking every which way. No gaps found. Contact between, that was Philcell and Luke Claver there, who was our biggest mover and shaker in race number 1, but nothing forthcoming at the moment. He's only going backwards on track.
There's no doubt that Justin Rougier and Jared Philcell were the big movers in this opening stage of the race. Both of the drivers finished a bit further back than they would have liked in race number 1, and we've got contact involving Madison Down. One of our top 3 finishers in race number 1 has been involved in an incident and finds himself parked in a very awkward position with oncoming traffic. Do they all manage to miss him? No, he gets collected up the front. That was inevitable, and he ends up on his roof.
Yeah, that was just about the slowest rollover you will ever see, so unlucky for Madison there. And that is going to be his race done, unfortunately, I think. So not how he would have liked to end, especially after such a great run in race number 1.
Oh, the problem there for Madison Down when, well, Trent Harrison it was who collected him. Trent Harrison was trying to overtake Texstar McCoy, so he had a car on his outside, and that meant that he didn't really have anywhere to go except head on into Madison Down's car.
Yep, that's just the worst feeling as a driver. I had that at Monza as well when we last used the Audi R8s, just stuck in the middle of Parabolica for myself, and just see cars going left and right, hoping they all miss you, and then eventually there's that one car and his trajectory is lining right towards you, and it's just a hopeless feeling. But nothing is hopeless for Justin Rougier at the moment, apart from the fact he does have Jared Philcell right behind him, who is looking very threatening. But this top 3 is very, very fast indeed, and it is currently led by Brad Newman, with Jonathan Bykoff in second, but going to be relegated very, very shortly, potentially, 2P number 3 in the form of Michael Hammond with a great move up the inside. Rougier wants to make something happen here as well. Looks to the inside, into club, gets the left-hander, has to give room on the outside, and it's a long way from here, and he might just be gifting Jared Filsell a very easy position here indeed, unless Rougier can find a massive lunge under brakes here. You'll see Filsell try and move over to block Rougier off. Can't do it, does do it, and Filsell with a big dive, massively overshoots the corner, goes very tight through the corner, indeed hurts his exit speed, allows Rougier to get one spot, almost thought about going up the inside into bridge on Jared Filsell as well. Now thinks about it again, just can't place the car there enough. So Filsell, a very balls to the wall move, but absolutely paid off.
He has skirted the tightrope in these opening couple of laps, Jared Filsell, taking massive risks, but they've all paid off so far, as we see a spin for race low, and he gets collected up the front, similar to what we saw from Madison down on the previous lap. And unfortunately, the driver who started this race for pole position has been shuffled backwards at a rapid rate of knots. Here's our race 1 winner, Luca Jackaman, getting involved in an incident as well and getting turfed off and into the wall. A couple of other cars involved in that one as well. But Jared Filsell, this has been the drive of the race for him so far. As mentioned before, lots of risk and lots of reward it's been. There's been some moves that have been 50-50, but they've all managed to come off. And Jared Filsell, he's up to 3rd position. He's got some clear track to start punching out the fast lap times and hunting down our race leaders.
No, absolutely. So current race leader does belong to Brad Newman. Last time around a 45.7. And Jared Filsell, despite doing multiple absolutely bonkers overtakes, was 2/10 faster. So plenty of pace in the form of Jared Filsell's Audi R8 at the moment. Quite a psychedelic sort of livery, as John Emerson there just peeling off the road. A shame to see, of course, John with some of his fantastic video work that he does for the series. So a massive thank you to John for all of that. But look at Michael Hammond in that very interesting, is the livery I'd call it, SpongeBob there. And he's getting very racy behind Brad Newman.
Filsell on the attack. This is becoming a genuine 3-way battle for the race lead now. Hammond, Newman and Filsell all absolutely nose to tail as they head through the slowest and most technical complex of corners that lead you back around to the start-finish line. Filsell's going to go for the lead here, but Justin Rougier is still lurking there too. We know that Rougier's got good pace as well.
Yeah, he does. So if Jared Filsell gets into this race lead, Rougier has to make sure he goes with him. But at the moment, the only person going for the race lead is not going to be Brad Newman. He gets a shove out wide through Cop's corner and will fall to the very back of the train and inherits the race lead to Michael Hammond. But for how much longer? Left and right, left and right. Filsell will go not into the back of him. That is not the way to go past. It is a way to go through, though, and that's only going to cop the attention of the race stewards. So don't go doing that, though. But a nice ride on the exit there of Beckett's for Filsell in the slipstream now. The wind speed here is only 5 kilometers an hour, so not getting much of a headwind at all down this long back straight. Goes for a big dart down the inside into Stowe. Makes the position work on the 007. And a great pass from Jared Filsell. He started this race right down the order in 18th. It is lap 5. He leads the race as Michael Hammond tries to fight back. Almost gets the overlap side by side through a club. It's a battle of who is going to get the traction on the outside. May just be paying favours at the moment.
Well, Michael Hammond had to do the Valentino Rossi there and fight back straight away, because if Filsell had been able to put his head down and get some clear space, he would have just disappeared up the road, but he comes back down the inside. The two leaders run side by side, and Justin Rougier might just be in the ideal position to capitalise on this as he now buys into the action as well.
Oh,
Some
Filsell!
clean side-by-side racing. Does Filsell squeeze through? Yes, he does, and here comes Rougier up the inside of Hammond, and Rougier is going to go through into 2nd position. And great racecraft, great clean racing, and great respect shown between all of those drivers.
That is absolutely critical for Rougier, because a 30-second black flag penalty has been issued to now race leader Jared Filsell. I'm not sure what that was for. He passed an awful lot of cars in a short period of time, so perhaps contact at some point in the race, but it is all going a little bit pear-shaped for him now. He leads the race, but Rougier perhaps in the catbird seat. So this was such good racing between these two drivers.
Jared Filsell running side by side with several corners in a row with Michael Hammonds. They both gave each other just enough room and just enough respect to make sure they didn't fire one another off the racetrack. And they managed to emerge out the other side unscathed. Can't imagine what the penalty would be for Jared Filsell, but I have to ask the question, is that a drive-through? Like, does he have to serve that during the race, or would it be added onto his time at the end?
That is a 30-second stop and go from what I can see, so that is a big penalty. So he's probably going to be losing about a minute, which if you look at the current order, will put him right back down to 43rd position, right behind Ruben Goodall. So that's a big one, and I too actually don't know what that is for, but clearly Trent Harrison, who has handed out the penalty, has seen something that has meant that Jared Filsell deserves to cop a bit of a penalty there, which is a shame because at the moment it does look like Rougier is managing to go with your race leader.
Good battles happening a bit further back. Aaron Borg, the Toyota 86 Racing Series champion in real life motorsport, wrapped up the title at Newcastle a couple of weeks ago. He's up inside the top 10 at the moment, battling with another real life racing driver in the form of Cody Bircher, who was a race winner in the Australian Formula 4 Championship this year.
No, absolutely. So very good effort there. A lot of really talented drivers in the real world that make their way over to Just End It, which is just great. And it really does give a lot of these drivers and sim racers who have never had the opportunity to compete in the real world to really have a benchmark to compete against. But of course, the driving standards and the large amounts of contact we often see in the series sometimes make that a bit difficult. But at the end of the day, this series is all about fun. It's about jumping in, having a crack, and having a laugh as well. So no one here is taking it all too seriously, but I wouldn't be surprised if Rougier out front at the moment does have his visor down just a little bit further than he normally would, and is really starting to pump in some lap times, as we do have a pass potentially happening. Gary Hamilton in that poop livery, I'm going to call it. I'm not going to use the other adjectives that I perhaps could, is under a lot of pressure from Cody Bircher at the moment, and Cody doing a very nice job in that real world livery like we mentioned before.
We saw there that Jared Filsell was in the pits serving that penalty. That has put him back to position 33. So, massive loss of positions there for Jared Filsell. And, yeah, he'll have to do a lot of that hard work all over again, unfortunately. Let's check out some of the other drivers who've made up good ground in this race. Dominic Ferraris, who was caught in drama in... Oh, we'll come back to that point, because there's been a massive crash just on the fringe of the top 10 involving Steve Owen, and was that Mitchell McLeod. Wow, that was a massive shunt involving both of those cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not quite able to see it on my end, but from what I could see, Steve Owen did not even think about the brakes there, and Mitch McLeod just a complete passenger in what has to be one of the most brutal impacts I've ever seen in Just End It.
Well, Steve Owen didn't even look like he was going to attempt to make that corner. He just absolutely nailed Mitchell McLeod. Do we nominate that for our biggest failed send of the week, or was that even really an attempt at a send? I'm not sure that it was.
There was a bit of contact a couple of corners earlier than that, so I think he's come back at him with a little bit of malicious intent, I would say.
A little bit. So Mitchell McLeod elbowed Steve Owen out of the way a couple of corners earlier on, and yeah, you would have to say that Steve Owen might have not appreciated that manoeuvre and has decided to exact revenge a couple of corners later. Bang! Wow, he just absolutely T-boned Mitchell McLeod, and that's both their days done. Now, just coming back to the point that I was making about drivers who've made good progress, so Dominic Ferraris, who had to start way down the order after some dramas early in race one, he's made up 39 spots. He's up to 12th position. Also, Jay Hansen, who was one of the drivers who got promoted up from the B race, he's come up 36 spots. So a couple of drivers making up some very good ground in this race.
No, absolutely. It's great to see some of these people making their way through the field with the likes of Jay Hansen. 36 positions gained at the moment, which is just brilliant, as Gary Hamilton there on screen goes for a little bit of a pirouette. And actually, I mean, if you're going to spin the car, that's about as effective and efficient you can possibly spin the car. And although Steve Owen's car was well and truly over the fence in that incident, Trent Harrison has officially pulled the pin and he has been disqualified. And I haven't seen too much of penalties in this series, but that is one of the first disqualifications I've at least seen.
Can I just say for the record that that's fair enough as well. I think if Steve Owen expected that he was going to get away with that without some sort of sanction, he would have been kidding himself.
No, I agree. 100% slam dunk penalty there. And I don't think anyone is going to be appealing that one to the stewards, to say the least. But for your top three, Rouge still leading from Brad Newman and Michael Hammond, who are embroiled in a battle as these guys are not getting away from one another, but they are being slowly hunted down. Well, I say hunted down slowly. It was 0.4 of a second. Brenton Hobson was quicker than Brad Newman last time around. So the master of position number 6 is punching well above his weight here and could be on for second place if he can close up with only 3.5 laps to go. Time is running out, but if anyone can do it, Brenton Hobson, one of the more popular drivers in the Australian NZ community with his massive YouTube following, well, he might just be able to do it, as Brad Newman is copying a few hits from Michael Hammond there.
This has been a good battle. So Justin Rougier obviously got past the two of them a few laps ago, but since then they've still been having a pretty healthy contest for positions 2 and 3. Brad Newman and Michael Hammond, who've been pretty close to one another pretty much all the way through this race. And they continue to swap paint and exchange positions, but like you say, they do need to be a bit careful now because Brenton Hobson will slip past both of them. They keep slowing each other down, and there's contact between the two of them, and it's Brad Newman that gets dispatched, gets a tap in the rear from Michael Hammond, and that's a shame because it had been a really clean contest between the two of them up until that point. So Hammond moves up to second, Brenton Hobson now into third spot.
Yep, absolutely. Now, I don't think he's going to stop at third place. He wants a little bit more side by side through Maggots and Beckett's. Here we go. Forces the issue in that gorgeous Synergy Sim Racing livery with Trackstar sponsorship. And not only is it a gorgeous livery, it's a gorgeous pass too. It gets P2. But all this is doing is saying, hello, Cody Bircher. It's a very nice run onto the back straight you've got there. Michael Hammond is a little bit worried. Ducks and weave, tries to get the slipstream of Brenton Hobson to try and save himself or make the position back. He can't get P2 back, and he's going to have to be very careful regarding position 3. He just feeds Cody Bircher out into the grass. Says, no way through this time, matey.
And Cody Bircher with a 1:44.4 on the previous lap was the fastest driver on the racetrack, so he's been able to capitalise on the cars battling ahead to make up some time on them and start putting the pressure on as we have another replay of this incident. Contact that was made between Michael Hammond and Brad Newman, which saw Brad Newman's car getting speared off to the side of the racetrack.
Yeah, big shame to see. He was doing so well and was really racing clean at the time and, you know, really fighting hard as well. So shame to see him end up that way, but how many races in Just Send It have we seen end that way? The other driver who was involved in that little battle pack was Michael Hammond, and he is still fighting for everything he's got. He's got a podium at the moment, but he has to hold on dearly because if he ends up as the furthest back of these 3 cars, he is going to lose that podium because, of course, Justin Rougier is a long way up front, so it is all about these 3 cars, and Brenton Hobson trying to make a run of it whilst Michael Hammond and Cody Bircher go side by side through Cobb's Corner. That is brave from Cody Bircher. He doesn't even consider staying between the white lines, tries to get the exit speed, and he may just about clear the SpongeBob car into Maggots and Beckett.
Just as well we don't have any penalties for track limits in these races because Cody Bircher was way off the racetrack. I got what he was trying to do. He was all the way around the outside and he was able to carry the corner speed and the momentum through. So I know that we sometimes do have slowdown penalties in iRacing for drivers that exceed track limits. Cody Bircher might have actually managed to get away with it there. Look at that. He was way off through the runoff area there at turn number 1. But he's managed to grab the position. He's up into the top 3.
Yep, absolutely. It's a creative pass, but I did say at the start of the race, you have to get creative. Maybe that was just his artistic impression of the circuit map here at Silverstone. But he does have very strong pace. Like you said, was setting some of the fastest lap times of the entire field. He hasn't officially set the fastest lap, though, because he hasn't actually set a lap time. He keeps getting incidents from going off the circuit. So he's got a little bit of redemption to make up in terms of actually setting a proper lap time. But the pace is undeniable right now. He's already closed up onto the back of Brenton Hobson, already hits the side of Brenton Hobson, and around Hobson will goes. That's an anticlimax if ever there was one. But Michael Hammond isn't going to let this one go easy. He's got his podium back. It's still like P2 back.
Yeah, a couple of very aggressive manoeuvres there from Cody Bircher. The outside turn number 1, and then just getting into the back of Brenton Hobson in the battle for second position. So some super aggression from Cody Bircher on this lap. Once again, it's probably a good thing for him that the driving standards rules are fairly relaxed, because in real life racing that would earn you a visit to the steward's office.
Absolutely. And I've just gone back to look at Jared Filsell, and I've noticed he's actually straight-lined all of Club Corner and decided to just go straight on through and cut half of the circuit. So, interesting tactics from Jared Filsell, but if it's making him positions, then you do you. I say is a big rejoin there. We were on board with Filsell. That was a replay there, and we're going to see right about here. Actually, you know what? I don't feel like doing this corner today. It's just doing the new pit entry, the director says. So there we go. And Madison Down is actually going to wait up for Jared Filsell, who cops a big hit from Glenn Serra, who goes flying around the circuit and loops his car. But Madison Down and Jared Filsell, 1 lap to go. Normally would see that battle pack for the race win. This time, not to be the case. This is going to be a fight over what is 20. Actually, they're not even on the same lap. That is how different their races have been, as Jared Filsell goes for the alternate ultimate racing line through turns 1 and 2. But for our race leader, Justin Rougier, he's only got a couple of corners to go on the very last lap.
Yeah, great performance from Justin Rougier. A mixture of aggression and discipline to fight his way to the front of the field. With some really well-judged passing manoeuvres. He wrapped up the Aussie Racing Car title a couple of weeks ago on the streets of Newcastle, and he is going to come through to collect your race victory for week 2, race 2 of Just Send It here at Silverstone. A great performance from the sim racer and real-life motorsport competitor. He grabs the win ahead of Cody Bircher by 4.87 seconds, the final margin at the finish line, and Michael Hammond rounding out your podium.
Absolutely a great race from all involved. You can see it's still going on at the moment. On board Nick Coulson, who's being hounded by Ross Rizzo, who gets a better run, but unfortunately the finish line does come up oh so quick, and he's going to have no chance of making that position work. But I will just scroll back and see any more battle packs. Devanche Padiacci involved in a good fight with Ryan Jerrick across the finish line there, finishing bumper to bumper essentially as they wrapped that one up there. So good to see. And I think the rest of the fights only includes Jared Filsell and Madison Down. Filsell going ultra defensive. Down going to have to try and throw something in the final few corners, but he's a little bit far back. Unless there is a big lunge, he goes for it initially, runs in super deep, and compromises all of his mid-corner speed to get the exit. And they're going to fight into the pit lane, and Jared Filsell cuts in front, gets the speeding penalty, takes out the cone, takes out about half of the pit crew too.
And has a multi-rollover just to finish things off as well. So that was certainly an eventful and action-packed race, wasn't it? Let's watch this again from Jared Filsell, a replay of how his race finished up with a monumental shunt in the pit entry row.
Madison Down is currently punting him to upright him, by the way. This is some very interesting pit lane tactics. And Filsell is indeed on his roof again, but as you can see, on board, ground sky, ground sky, ground sky, and grounds.
Oh dear. Well, what do we say about that race, gentlemen? There was certainly a bit going on in that one. A few slightly questionable driving tactics from some of the competitors, it probably has to be said, but some really great sends and some exemplary performances by the drivers who finished at the top of the order.
No, absolutely. There was some really good fighting in there. There was some brilliant side-by-side action. There was a couple of questionable moves, questionable racing lines, and questionable pit entries as well, just to round off the night. But that's just Send It. It's always a mixed bag, and I think it was very much entertaining. But results on screen there, definitely an action-packed race.
So Justin Rougier, your race winner, 4.85 seconds, the final margin over Cody Bircher. Michael Hammond finishing up in third spot. Back then to Brenton Hobson, Aaron Borg, Gary Hamilton, Simon Black, and Brad Newman, who we saw was in the top 3 for much of the race, recovered to finish in 8th position after that spin. Jake Maloney gets up to 9th position. Good result for him, finishing in the top 10 in both races tonight. Dominic Ferraris, a really, really good drive. 41 positions he made up in that race to come from outside the top 50 into the top 10. Fantastic effort from him. Luke Claver in 11th, back then to Nick Carroll, Glenn Wood, Nick Coulson, Ross Rizzo, and Techstar McCoy in 16th spot.
17th place would belong to Michael Rosenblatt with Andrew Collins, Jay Hansen, and Duvashen Padiachi in the top 20 as well. Ben Dutton would would round things up, I should say, in 21st place with Jonathan Bykoff, Bryce McDonald, and Glenn Postlethwaite, your top 24.
Okay, running down through the finishing order. Paul Rogers in 25th position ahead of Justin Ford, Lee Burley, Jared Philsell, who was in the thick of the action and controversy. He ended up in 28th spot, and then a lap down, Emerson Harvey, our race 1 winner, Luca Giacomin in 30th position, Alexander Newton in 31st, and Ryan Jerrick in 32nd spot.
33rd spot and a lap down would go Andre Burrell, Glenn Sarah, and then 2 laps down, Madison down, Nick De Silva would go 3 laps down, as would Christian Lindbaum, with 4 laps down being Brett Cananzi, and then a lot of the casualties in this race, including Steve Owen, who I'm not going to call a casualty, but Mitch McLeod I'm absolutely going to call a casualty in what I think is one of the biggest crashes we've ever seen in Just Send It history.
Pretty much everybody else in the race, non-finishers, Sam Devontier in first, Ruben Goodall, Lachlan Maneef not seeing the checkered flag today, neither did Blake Purdy, Dean O'Brien, Jackson Suzlin Harlow, Michael Cuttajar in 47th position, Guy Leach in 48th spot.
And then to round out the rest of the cars, Angelo Mazouris, Paul Mansell, John Emerson, Reese Lowe, what could have been from first on the grid. It wasn't to be his day. Dylan Shepard, Trent Harrison, Zach Bates, Paul Nichols, and Jack Hotter, the top 57 and your final 57 from what was a chaotic, absolutely mad 21 minutes here at Silverstone.
So don't forget, folks, you'll be able to tune into all of the highlights from this week on the Just Send It Facebook page. We'll have announcements of our viewer prize winner for tonight as well. And also for all of the competitors in Just Send It, they'll be posting their liveries up on the Just Send It Facebook page in the coming days as well for everybody to vote on and pick their Just Painted best colour scheme of the week to go into that final 12 who will go through to the grand finals to compete for pretty cool simulator racing equipment. Thanks to SimWorks. Big thanks for your company here on Just Send It. Thanks to the SimSpeed TV team for producing the telecast. Thanks to my co-commentators, Bo Albert and Sam Stratton. Hope you've enjoyed all of the action. On behalf of the entire team, this is Lockie Mansell signing off. See you next time on Just Send It. Bye for now.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!